Doomslayer stood knee-deep in demon corpses, his super shotgun smoking, his praetor suit covered in gore. Around him, the remains of 100 Hell Knights lay scattered across blackened stone. Cacodemon parts decorated the walls. Imp bodies were piled so high they formed impromptu barricades. Just another Tuesday. He reloaded methodically, his movements efficient after eons of endless combat. The demons kept coming, they always did. Wave after wave of hellspawn throwing themselves at the one being in all of creation they feared more than their dark masters. The Doomslayer, the unchained predator, the scourge of hell, a hell baron charged from the smoke, roaring defiance. The Slayer sidestepped its swing, shoved his shotgun into the creature's mouth, and pulled both triggers. The Baron's head exploded in a shower of bone and brain matter. He walked through the falling debris without slowing. Slayer. The voice of Vega, his AI companion, stored in his suit's systems, spoke with its characteristic calm. "I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature." The Slayer said nothing. He never did. But he paused, listening. "The signature is unusual. It reads as demonic in nature, but the wavelength is unfamiliar, not originating from this dimension." A portal, a rift in space-time tore open in front of him. Not Hell's usual gateway. This was something else. Something that sparked wrong against the fabric of reality. Beyond the portal, the Slayer could see glimpses of a massive structure. Metal. Technology far beyond anything on Earth. And beneath it all, he felt a presence that registered to his senses as demonic. Dark, evil, concentrated. He'd learned to trust those instincts. They'd kept him alive, or as alive as he could be, for longer than human memory could track. "Slayer, I cannot determine the destination's safety. The energy readings are..." The Slayer walked through the portal. "Of course you did," Vega finished, reality twisted. For a moment, Doomslayer existed between dimensions, a space of impossible geometry and colors that defied description. He'd traveled through Hell's guts for so long that dimensional transit barely registered anymore. Then he emerged. The first thing he noticed was gravity. Standard. Approximately Earth normal. Good. Made moving easier. The second thing was the environment. Metal floors, artificial lighting, massive space. A hangar of some kind, filled with strange angular spacecraft and equipment he didn't recognize. The third thing was the soldiers. 24 of them, wearing white armor that covered them head to toe. They carried weapons energy-based, his suit's sensors indicated. Blasters. Less powerful than plasma rifles, but still lethal to normal humans. The Slayer was not a normal human. The soldiers noticed him immediately. They turned as one, training drilled into them, making the movement precise and coordinated. "Halt!" the lead soldier barked, his voice filtered through his helmet speakers. "Identify yourself immediately. How did you breach security?" The Doomslayer assessed the situation in microseconds. 24 hostiles. Unknown allegiance. Carrying weapons. Standing between him and the demonic signature he'd sensed. His hand moved to his super shotgun. "This is your final warning," the soldier continued. "Identify yourself, or..." The Slayer's shotgun came up faster than human reflexes could track. "Open fire." Boom. The double-barreled blast caught 3 stormtroopers center mass. The specialized shells designed to punch through demon hide, tearing through their armor like tissue paper. They flew backward, bodies shredded, dead before they hit the ground. The hangar erupted into chaos. Intruder. Hostile contact. Blaster fire filled the air, red bolts of energy that would have vaporized an unarmored human. The Slayer walked through the barrage, his praetor suit's energy shielding absorbing the impacts. His HUD showed shield strength at 87%. Plenty. He fired again. Another stormtrooper's chest exploded. Then another. A soldier tried to flank him. The Slayer spun, faster than the soldier expected, and drove his armored fist through the man's faceplate. The helmet crumpled. The skull inside crumpled with it. "What is that thing? Concentrate fire. Bring it down." The remaining stormtroopers opened up with everything they had. Dozens of blaster bolts hammered the Slayer from multiple angles. His shields dropped to 62%, 54%, 47%. He switched to his heavy assault rifle, the chain gun configuration. The weapon spun up with a distinctive whine, then unleashed a stream of depleted uranium rounds that turned the hangar into a killing field. Stormtroopers fell in waves. Armor meant nothing against the high-velocity rounds. Cover meant nothing when the bullets punched through metal plating. Superior numbers meant nothing when your enemy was functionally immortal and had been killing things far worse than you for eons. In 30 seconds, 24 Imperial stormtroopers were reduced to corpses and scattered body parts. The Slayer lowered his chain gun, the barrel still spinning, smoke rising from the cooling vents. "Slayer," Vega's voice came through his helmet. "I am detecting over 1 million human life signs on this structure. Analysis suggests we're inside some form of massive mobile battle station." The Slayer looked around the hangar, his eyes enhanced by the divinity machine, capable of seeing in spectrums normal humans couldn't pick out details. The spacecraft were fighter-class vessels. TIE fighters, according to his suit's analysis after scanning their design. Short range, used for space superiority and ground attack. This wasn't just a ship, this was a carrier, or something bigger. "Additionally," Vega continued, "I'm detecting the demonic energy signature approximately 3.7 kilometers from our current position. It appears to be mobile." The Slayer nodded to himself. Target acquired. Now he just had to reach it. He started walking toward the hangar's exit. Behind him, alarms began to blare. The hangar bay's security station exploded into activity. "All units. Hangar 327 is under attack. Unknown hostile has breached security and killed multiple personnel." Lieutenant Jax, a 20-year veteran of Imperial service, grabbed his comlink. "This is Security Command. Seal all exits from Hangar 327. Deploy rapid response teams. I want that intruder contained and neutralized." "Sir, initial reports indicate the hostile is heavily armed and armored. Conventional blasters had minimal effect. Then deploy heavy weapons, E-web blasters, thermal detonators if necessary. I don't care if you have to bring the whole hangar down. That intruder does not leave that bay alive." Jax pulled up the security feeds on his monitor. The main camera showed the hangar from an elevated angle, giving him a perfect view of what, in the name of the Emperor. The intruder stood in the center of the hangar, surrounded by dead stormtroopers. But it was the intruder himself that made Jax's blood run cold. The armor was like nothing in Imperial records, green, angular, covered in scorch marks and what looked like claw scratches. The helmet was featureless except for a visor that glowed with pale light. And the weapons. The creature carried an arsenal that would make an entire squad envious. A massive shotgun, some kind of rotary cannon, grenades, and mounted on his shoulder, something that looked disturbingly like a launcher for heavy ordnance. "How did security miss this arriving on station?" Jax muttered. On screen, the intruder walked toward the hangar exit with purpose. No hesitation. No fear, just direct, unwavering movement toward his objective. The blast doors began to close, emergency lockdown protocol. 3-foot-thick Durasteel designed to contain explosive decompression and resist starfighter weapons. The intruder didn't slow down. He raised one arm. Jax saw something mounted on his wrist and fired. The equipment launcher shot a grappling hook that punched through the closing blast door like it was made of cardboard. The intruder was yanked forward at high speed, pulled through the narrowing gap just before the doors slammed shut. "He's in the corridor network," Jax reported over the command channel. "All units, hostile is heading toward detention block levels. Intercept and engage." "Sir, rapid response teams are en route. ETA 90 seconds. Jax pulled up more camera feeds, tracking the intruder's progress. The creature moved through the corridors with frightening speed, each step purposeful and direct. It knew where it was going. How? Then the first rapid response team arrived. Doomslayer rounded a corner and found himself facing 50 stormtroopers in defensive positions. They'd set up portable barriers, positioned heavy weapons, established overlapping fields of fire. Good tactics. Against a normal enemy, it would have been effective. The Slayer was not a normal enemy. "Target acquired. Open fire." The corridor exploded with blaster fire and the distinctive shriek of an E-web heavy repeating blaster. The walls glowed red-hot from impacts. The air itself seemed to ignite. The Slayer's shields took the brunt of it, dropping rapidly. 47%, 32%, 18%. He needed to close distance. Fast. He activated his dash ability, a burst of momentum that launched him forward at impossible speed. In less than a second, he crossed 30 feet and crashed into the defensive line like a meteor. His fist, reinforced by armor designed to punch through demon hide, slammed into a stormtrooper's chest. The armor crumpled. Ribs shattered. The soldier flew backward into his companions, bowling over 3 more. The Slayer grabbed another trooper by the helmet and used him as a battering ram, driving forward through the defensive position. Stormtroopers scrambled to adjust, trying to get clear firing lines without hitting their own men. They failed. The Slayer threw his human weapon into a cluster of soldiers, then followed up with a frag grenade. The explosion sent bodies flying. A stormtrooper tried to brain him with a rifle stock. The Slayer caught the weapon mid-swing, yanked it from the soldier's grip, and drove the stock through his faceplate. Another soldier managed to get his blaster up at point-blank range. The red bolt hit the Slayer's chest armor and dissipated harmlessly. The Slayer grabbed the man's head in one hand and crushed. His glory kill system, the Praetor suit's ability to absorb demonic essence from brutal executions, wasn't activating. These weren't demons, just humans. But the brutal efficiency remained. He pulled out his chainsaw. The weapon roared to life, its teeth spinning at thousands of RPM. The stormtroopers in front of him actually took a step back, trained discipline overcome by primal fear. Fall back, fall back. The Slayer didn't let them. He waded into them with the chainsaw leading, and the corridor became an abattoir. Armor split. Bodies fell in pieces. Blood painted the walls. The E-Web gunner tried to bring his weapon around. The Slayer was already there, grabbing the heavy blaster and ripping it from its mounting. He turned the weapon on its former operators, holding down the trigger and sweeping the beam across the remaining stormtroopers. In less than a minute, 50 Imperial soldiers were dead. The corridor was painted red. Smoke rose from cooling bodies. The Slayer dropped the E-Web, overheated and useless, and continued forward. His sensors indicated the demonic signature was getting closer. 2.3 kilometers now. Behind him, Imperial security watched through cameras and tried to process what they'd just witnessed. "Get me Grand Moff Tarkin," Lieutenant Jack said quietly. "Tell him we have a situation." Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin stood in the Death Star's command center, overseeing final preparations for the station's demonstration. Everything was proceeding according to schedule. Alderaan was in range. Princess Leia was secured in detention. Soon the galaxy would witness the Empire's ultimate power, and all thoughts of rebellion would be crushed forever. Then his personal comlink buzzed. "Security Priority Alpha. Tarkin here. Sir, this is Lieutenant Jax, Security Command. We have an incident." Tarkin's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped several degrees. "Elaborate." "Unknown hostile in Hangar Bay 327. It's killed over 70 personnel and is moving through the station. Heavy weapons have proven ineffective. Sir, I've never seen anything like this. I'm transmitting security footage now." Tarkin pulled up the feed on his command console. For several seconds, he watched in silence as the armored figure tore through Imperial forces with methodical brutality. "How did this thing board the station?" "Unknown. Sir, it appeared in the hangar bay without any ship. No breaches detected in the hull. It's as if it materialized from nothing." "Impossible." "Yes, sir. Yet here we are." Tarkin considered his options. The demonstration was too important to delay, but this threat needed to be neutralized. Quickly. Deploy all garrison forces along its route. Seal blast doors. Use gas if necessary. I want this hostile contained and eliminated. Now." "Yes, sir." "Sir, there's one more thing. The hostile appears to be moving with purpose, like it's heading toward a specific location." "Which location?" "Based on its trajectory. Detention level, or possibly reactor control." Tarkin's jaw tightened. If this creature was after the princess, it meant the rebels were more resourceful than anticipated. And if it was targeting the reactor, double the guard on detention block AA-23 and get me Lord Vader. Immediately, in his private meditation chamber, Darth Vader felt the disturbance before the comlink sounded. Something was wrong on the station. Something he couldn't quite identify. A presence he'd never encountered before, not of the Force, yet powerful nonetheless. "Lord Vader," Tarkin's voice crackled through the comm. "We have an intruder, unknown origin, highly dangerous. I require your assistance." Vader rose from his meditation, his breathing apparatus filling the chamber with its distinctive mechanical rhythm. "Show me." The holographic display activated, showing the security footage. Vader watched the armored figure cut through stormtroopers with casual ease, watched it survive concentrated blaster fire, watched it kill without hesitation or mercy. "What is it?" Tarkin asked. "Something from beyond the Force," Vader replied slowly, "but steeped in darkness nonetheless. I sense death around it, countless deaths, as if it has been killing for eternity. Can you stop it? I will stop it." Vader deactivated the hologram and ignited his lightsaber, the red blade casting crimson shadows across the dark chamber. Whatever this creature was, it would learn that the dark side of the Force was not to be trifled with. He walked toward the corridor, his cape billowing behind him, his presence a wave of darkness that made stormtroopers step aside instinctively. The hunt had begun. Meanwhile, deeper in the station, Emperor Palpatine sat in his private chambers aboard his docked shuttle, monitoring the situation through his own means. The Force showed him flashes of what was occurring. An armored warrior cutting through his soldiers. Something that resisted the Force's influence. Something that felt wrong. Alien. From beyond the galaxy itself. "Interesting," Palpatine murmured. "A variable I did not foresee." He reached out through the Force, trying to touch the intruder's mind, trying to sense its intentions, its nature, its weakness. He encountered absolute nothing. Not a void voids could be sensed. Not a barrier barriers could be broken. This was as if the creature simply didn't exist within the Force at all. A blank space in the cosmic tapestry. Most interesting indeed. Palpatine activated his communication array. "Lord Vader, exercise caution with this intruder. It is not what it appears, and its presence here is troubling." Through their Force bond, he felt Vader's acknowledgement. Palpatine leaned back in his throne, yellow eyes gleaming in the darkness. Whatever this creature was, it would reveal much. Either it would be destroyed, providing data on a new type of threat, or it would prove troublesome, in which case more drastic measures would be necessary. Either way, the Emperor would learn. And knowledge was power. Princess Leia Organa sat in her detention cell, mind racing through scenarios. The interrogation droid had been bad. Vader's Force interrogation had been worse, but she'd held. Dantooine. She'd given them Dantooine, an old abandoned base. By the time they realized the rebels had evacuated years ago, hopefully the real base on Yavin would have scattered. But now, Tarkin was talking about demonstrating the Death Star's power. On Alderaan, her home, 2 billion people, gone, just to make her talk. She'd underestimated the Empire's cruelty. Or perhaps she'd simply hoped they had some line they wouldn't cross. She'd been wrong. The cell door hissed, and Leia looked up, expecting Vader or another interrogation session. Instead, she heard something else. Blaster fire, lots of it, echoing from the corridor outside. Men shouting, screaming, the distinctive sound of explosions. A rescue attempt. Had the rebels somehow tracked her here? The door exploded inward. Leia shielded her face from the debris, then looked up at her rescuer, and froze. The figure standing in the doorway was not a rebel soldier, not even human. From the look of it, the armor was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Green, angular, clearly built for combat. The helmet was expressionless, showing no face, just a glowing visor that regarded her with unreadable intent, and it was covered in blood. Fresh blood, still dripping. What are you?" Leia managed. The figure tilted its head slightly, regarding her. Then a voice, mechanically filtered, flat, emotionless, spoke from the armor's speakers. Human, not demonic. What? The figure turned away, apparently satisfied she was not its target. It started to leave. "Wait!" Leia scrambled to her feet. "Are you here to rescue me?" The figure paused, looked back at her. "No. Hunting demons." "Demons? There are no demons here. This is the Death Star, the Empire's battle station." Detected demonic signature. Following it, Leia's mind raced. This creature, whatever it was, had somehow boarded the most secure facility in the Empire, killed its way to detention, and was hunting something it thought was a demon. It was clearly powerful, clearly dangerous, and it was about to walk away and leave her here. "Wait," she tried again. "This station, it's a weapon. They're going to use it to destroy Alderaan. Billions of people will die. You can't just—" The figure stopped. For a long moment, it stood completely still. Then that mechanical voice spoke again. "Where is the weapon?" "The super laser. It's powered by the main reactor. But you can't possibly fight the entire—" The detention block door exploded again. This time, Imperial officers poured through, flanked by stormtroopers. "Secure the prisoner. Terminate the intruder." The armored figure moved faster than Leia's eyes could track. Its arm came up, and suddenly it was holding a weapon massive, angular, glowing with green energy. It fired. The green energy blast filled the corridor, a ball of explosive force that struck the center of the Imperial formation and detonated. The blast didn't just kill the soldiers, it vaporized them. Bodies disintegrated in the green light, reduced to atoms in milliseconds. When Leia's vision cleared, the entire squad was simply gone. Nothing remained but scorch marks on the walls. "What?" Leia stared at the weapon. "What was that?" "BFG." The figure holstered the massive weapon and pulled out a shotgun instead. "Follow or stay. Choice is yours." It walked out of the cell, stepping over the scorch marks where men had been standing seconds ago. Leia grabbed a fallen blaster from outside the door and made her choice. She followed. Whatever this thing was, it was her best chance at survival, and possibly the galaxy's best chance at stopping the Death Star. "At least tell me what you are," she called after it. The figure didn't slow down. "Doomslayer." Ahead, alarms were blaring. Blast doors were sealing. Stormtroopers were mobilizing. The Doomslayer just kept walking, and Leia realized something terrifying. He was going to kill every single person between him and his target, and there was absolutely nothing the Empire could do to stop him. Darth Vader strode through the Death Star's corridors with purpose, his Force senses guiding him toward the disturbance. The reports had been consistent: an armored intruder, unstoppable, leaving trails of bodies in its wake. Over 200 stormtroopers dead in less than 15 minutes. Impressive, concerning, and about to end. Vader rounded a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was a massacre. Bodies or parts of bodies littered the floor. Blood painted the walls. Scorch marks indicated explosives had been used. Some soldiers looked like they'd been torn apart by bare hands, and standing in the center of it all was the intruder. It was smaller than Vader had expected, man-sized. But the armor was like nothing in Imperial databases, ancient-looking, yet clearly functional. Battle-scarred from what must have been thousands of engagements. The creature held a weapon, the shotgun from the reports, and was methodically reloading, shell by shell. Taking its time, it sensed Vader's presence and turned. For a moment, they simply regarded each other. Sith Lord and Demon Hunter, Dark Side Warrior and Immortal Slayer. Vader spoke first, his voice amplified by his mask's respirator. "You have caused considerable damage to Imperial property, and killed many of my soldiers. For this, you will answer." The Slayer said nothing, just stared at Vader through that expressionless visor. Vader reached for the Force, trying to sense the creature's intentions, trying to find its mind, its thoughts, its fears. Nothing. The Force slid around the intruder like water around stone. He existed, but the Force could not touch him. Troubling. "What are you?" Vader demanded. "Demon killer." The mechanical voice was flat, emotionless. "I am not a demon. I am Lord Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, and you have made a grave mistake coming here." The Slayer finished reloading, racked the shotgun, aimed it at Vader. Vader's lightsaber snapped to life, the crimson blade humming with deadly energy. Weapons cannot harm me, creature. I am protected by the Force itself. Your primitive firearms are... The Slayer fired. Vader reacted on instinct, calling on the Force to create a barrier. The shotgun blast hit the invisible shield and stopped barely. The kinetic energy was tremendous, far more than any normal weapon should produce. Vader actually slid backward several inches, his boots scraping on the deck. Impossible, Vader breathed. The Slayer fired again, and again. Each blast hammered against Vader's force barrier, requiring more and more energy to maintain. Then the Slayer switched weapons. The plasma rifle, Vader didn't know its designation, just saw blue-white bolts of superheated energy streaking toward him. He deflected them with his lightsaber, the blade intercepting the plasma and redirecting it into the walls. But there were so many shots, a continuous barrage. Vader had to move. He force-pushed, sending a wave of telekinetic energy at the Slayer. The armored figure slid backward but didn't fall, didn't even stagger much, just adjusted his stance and kept firing. You resist the Force, Vader realized. How? The Slayer's only answer was to pull out another weapon. This one was different, a blade, but crackling with red energy. Similar to a lightsaber, but somehow alien. Wrong. The Crucible. Vader's eyes widened behind his mask. That blade felt wrong even through the Force. Ancient, powerful, designed to kill things that shouldn't be able to die. The Slayer charged. The Crucible met Vader's lightsaber in a shower of sparks and energy. Vader had trained in lightsaber combat for years, had studied every form, had killed Jedi Masters and dark side warriors alike. He was one of the most skilled duelists in the galaxy. The Doom Slayer had been killing things since before the Republic existed. Their blades clashed again and again, the corridor becoming a storm of red and crimson light. Vader used Form V, aggressive, powerful strikes designed to overwhelm opponents. The Slayer used something that had no name, brutal, efficient movements designed purely to kill. Vader tried to force choke the Slayer. The armored figure didn't react, didn't even slow, just kept attacking. You don't breathe, Vader realized. What are you? The Slayer responded by punching Vader in the chest with his free hand. The Force-enhanced blow would have shattered a normal human's ribs. Vader's cybernetics absorbed most of it, but he still felt the impact, felt pain. This creature could hurt him, truly hurt him. Vader unleashed Force Lightning, the dark side's most destructive power channeled through his mechanical hands. Blue-white electricity crackled toward the Slayer. The Praetor suit's energy systems absorbed it, converted it, stored it. The Slayer's shoulder-mounted equipment launcher fired, and Vader barely dodged the frag grenade. The explosion still caught him, sending him tumbling backward. When Vader regained his footing, he was panting, damaged, one arm sparking slightly from damage to the cybernetics. The Slayer stood unmarked, unmoved, unstoppable. You cannot win, Vader said, though for the first time in years he wasn't sure he believed it. I am the Dark Lord, the Chosen One. The Slayer shot him. The super shotgun blast hit Vader's lightsaber he'd instinctively blocked, but the kinetic force still sent him flying backward. He crashed through a wall, through the room beyond, and embedded himself in the far wall. By the time he extracted himself, the Slayer was walking toward him, weapons ready. Vader made a decision. This creature was beyond his ability to stop alone. He needed backup, needed time to plan. Lord Vader to command, he spoke into his comlink. Deploy all available forces to my location. And prepare the Death Star for immediate firing sequence. Sir, we're not in position over Alderaan yet. I don't care. If we cannot stop this intruder, we must ensure the station's weapon remains functional. Tarkin will understand. Vader used the Force to collapse the ceiling, bringing several tons of Durasteel and equipment down on the Slayer's position. Then he retreated, using Force speed to put distance between himself and the creature. Behind him, he heard the debris explode outward, heard the mechanical footsteps resume, felt the inexorable presence continuing to advance. Vader reached a junction, sealed blast doors behind him, and took a moment to assess his injuries. Significant damage to his left arm, chest plate cracked. several system alerts flashing in his helmet's HUD. He'd fought Jedi Masters and won. He'd killed Sith Lords and emerged victorious. He was Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith, the Chosen One, and that thing had nearly killed him. "What are you?" Vader whispered to himself. Behind the sealed blast doors, the Slayer placed a charge. The explosion echoed through the junction. Then the blast doors blew inward, and the Doomslayer stepped through, shotgun ready. Behind him, Princess Leia Organa followed, clutching a blaster, her eyes wide with shock at what she'd just witnessed. "Did you just fight Darth Vader?" she demanded. The Slayer looked at her, then looked ahead where his sensors indicated the demonic signature was growing stronger. "Demon in armor." "Where's the reactor?" Leia stared at him for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. "I'll show you, but we need to hurry. They're going to fire this station's weapons soon, and if they do, my home billions of people won't fire. Station will be destroyed first. How can you possibly always destroy the demon's fortress? Simpler that way." The Slayer started walking, and Leia had no choice but to follow. Behind them, alarms continued to blare. The Death Star mobilized its entire garrison, thousands of stormtroopers, hundreds of officers, every soldier on the station converging on one target. They were marching toward their own slaughter. And the Doomslayer did what he always did. He walked toward the enemy, weapons loaded, armor scarred but functional, and prepared to do what he'd been doing for eons. Kill every single one. The Death Star's corridors had become a war zone. Every intersection brought a new squad of stormtroopers. Every blast door that opened revealed more enemies. The Imperial garrison had fully mobilized thousands of soldiers converging on the Doomslayer's position, trying to slow him down, trying to stop him. They were failing spectacularly. Doomslayer walked through corridor 447B, his super shotgun barking rhythmically. Each blast removed a stormtrooper from existence. Bodies piled up. The walls were painted red. Shell casings littered the floor. Behind him, Princess Leia followed at a safe distance, occasionally firing her stolen blaster when stormtroopers tried to flank them. She'd given up trying to process what she was witnessing. This creature, this Doomslayer, moved through Imperial forces like they were training dummies. A squad tried to set up a defensive position at a T-junction ahead. E-web heavy blasters, portable shields, proper overlapping fields of fire. The Slayer didn't slow down. "Get down!" Leia shouted. The Slayer pulled out his rocket launcher. The squad commander saw it coming. Incoming! The rocket struck the portable shield dead center. The explosion was massive. The shaped charge designed to crack demon armor turned the defensive position into a crater. Body parts flew. Equipment vaporized. The blast radius consumed everything within 20 feet. Leia pulled herself up from where she ducked, ears ringing, and saw the Slayer already walking through the smoke toward the next corridor. "How many have you killed?" she shouted after him. "Vega?" The Slayer's voice came through his helmet speakers. "Current enemy combatant count. 847 eliminated since arrival," the AI responded. "Ammunition reserves at 67%. Armor integrity at 82%. Biometric readings nominal." 847? Leia stared. In less than an hour, the Slayer reloaded his shotgun. More coming. He wasn't wrong. Ahead, blast doors opened to reveal another massive corridor, this one packed with stormtroopers. Leia's heart sank. There had to be at least 100 soldiers, all in formation, all with weapons raised. "That's too many," she said. "We need to find another route." The Slayer pulled out a different weapon. One Leia hadn't seen before. It looked like a flamethrower, but wrong. Alien. The fuel tank glowed with unnatural orange light. "What is that?" "Flame belch." He fired. A wave of hellfire erupted from the weapon, not normal fire, but something that burned hotter, brighter, wrong. It washed over the first ranks of stormtroopers like a tsunami of flame. Plastoid armor melted. Men screamed. The corridor became an inferno. Those who survived the initial blast tried to retreat, but the Slayer was already switching weapons. Heavy assault rifle. The chain gun spun up and unleashed hell. Depleted uranium rounds ripped through the panicked soldiers. Those not immediately killed by the flames died to the bullet storm. In seconds, 100 soldiers were reduced to corpses and the dying. Leia stood frozen, unable to process the sheer brutality. This wasn't combat. This was extermination. "You're not even slowing down," she whispered. The Slayer didn't respond. His HUD showed the demonic signature ahead. 1.8 kilometers now. Getting closer. But Vega interrupted. "Slayer, I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the station's primary weapon. Analysis suggests a charging sequence has been initiated." "The super laser," Leia realized. "They're preparing to fire. On Alderaan. We're running out of time." The Slayer looked at her, then ahead at the corridors, still swarming with enemies. "Then move faster." His fist clenched, and Leia saw his armor change. The plates shifted. Green energy crackled across his form. His eyes blazed brighter through the visor. "What are you?" "Berserk mode activated," Vega announced. The Slayer charged. What followed was carnage on a scale Leia had never imagined. The Doomslayer tore through the Death Star's corridors like a demon himself, not using weapons, using his bare hands. Enhanced by the Berserk power-up, his strength increased to levels that defied physics. A stormtrooper raised his blaster. The Slayer grabbed him by the helmet and ripped his head off. Spine still attached. Used the body as a battering ram against 3 more soldiers. Another squad tried to stop him. The Slayer punched through one trooper's chest plate, grabbed his heart, ripped it out, threw the organ at another soldier hard enough to cave in his helmet. 2 troopers tackled him from behind. The Slayer grabbed both by their necks, lifted them, and slammed them together so hard their armor fused, dropped the mangled corpses and kept moving. An officer tried to run. The Slayer grabbed his leg, swung him like a club, beat 5 other soldiers to death with the officer's body, then threw the corpse through a window, shattering the transparent steel. Fall back, it's unstoppable." But there was nowhere to fall back to. The Slayer was everywhere, moving too fast to track, killing too efficiently to escape. A stormtrooper drew a vibroblade in desperation, stabbing at the Slayer's chest. The blade shattered against the Praetor suit. The Slayer grabbed the soldier's arm, broke it backwards at the elbow, then shoved the broken bone through the man's own faceplate. Another tried shooting at point-blank range. The Slayer caught the blaster in one hand, crushed it, then drove his other fist through the soldier's chest, out his back, and through the chest of the soldier behind him. 1 punch, 2 deaths. Leia could only watch in horror and awe as the Doomslayer carved a path of absolute destruction through the Imperial forces. In 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, he killed over 100 stormtroopers with nothing but his fists. When the Berserk mode faded, he stood in a corridor, painted red, surrounded by bodies that barely resembled humans anymore. His armor was covered in gore. Blood dripped from his hands. He flexed his fingers once, testing the joints, then pulled his shotgun back out. "Let's go." Leia followed, stepping carefully over the bodies, trying not to look at their faces, or what remained of them. "What are you?" she asked quietly. "Told you, Doomslayer. That's not an answer. You're not human. You can't be. Humans don't do that." The Slayer glanced back at her. "Was human. Once. Long time ago. What happened? Made a choice. To fight. Forever. Until every demon is dead. And you think Vader is a demon? The Empire feels like demons, acts like demons. Close enough. They reached a turbo lift that would take them down several levels, closer to the reactor. The Slayer input a command, and the doors opened. Inside were 3 Imperial officers, unarmed, clearly trying to evacuate. They froze when they saw the blood-soaked armor. "Please," one of them whispered. "We're just navigation officers. We haven't hurt anyone. We're not combatants. Please." The Slayer assessed them. No weapons, no armor, not attacking, just terrified. He stepped into the lift, moved to the side, and waited. "Well?" he said to Leia. "Coming?" Leia entered, keeping her blaster trained on the officers. They pressed themselves against the far wall, trembling. The lift descended in tense silence. You're the one killing everyone." one officer finally said. The whole station is talking about you. They're calling you a demon, a monster. Not a demon, the Slayer replied. Demon killer. What's the difference? The Slayer looked at the officer directly. Demons enjoy killing. I just do it. The lift stopped. The doors opened to reveal another corridor and 50 more stormtroopers waiting in ambush. Get down! The Slayer barked at the officers. They hit the floor. The Slayer's rocket launcher came up and the corridor exploded. When the smoke cleared, the officers scrambled out of the lift and ran, their uniforms singed but alive. Leia stared after them. You let them go. Not combatants. Not demons. No reason to kill them. But you've killed hundreds. Who attacked me? Or stood between me and my target? They didn't. Leia realized something. For all the brutal violence, the Slayer had a code, twisted by normal standards, perhaps, but consistent. He killed threats. He killed combatants. He killed those who served evil willingly. But he didn't kill the helpless, didn't kill non-combatants, didn't kill just for the sake of killing. There might be hope for you yet, she muttered. If the Slayer heard, he gave no indication. He was already moving forward, his sensors locked on the demonic signature ahead. In the Death Star's command center, Grand Moff Tarkin watched his battle station being torn apart from within. Status report, he demanded. Sir, we've lost over 1,000 personnel. The intruder has breached sectors 7 through 14. It's heading toward the reactor level. Current defensive forces? We've consolidated remaining garrison forces. Approximately 5,000 troops are being deployed to the reactor level as we speak. Everything we have left. Tarkin pulled up the holographic display. The Death Star's schematic showed troop positions, the intruder's projected route, and the reactor itself, the massive power core that energized the superlaser. If the intruder reached the reactor and sabotaged it, the chain reaction would destroy the entire station. How long until the superlaser is fully charged? 17 minutes, sir. And how long until the intruder reaches the reactor level? At current speed, 15 minutes. Tarkin's jaw clenched. This was unacceptable. His triumph, the demonstration of ultimate Imperial power, was being derailed by a single armored creature that wouldn't die. His comlink crackled. Grand Moff, this is Emperor Palpatine. Tarkin straightened immediately. My lord, I have been monitoring the situation. This intruder is beyond your conventional force's ability to stop. Lord Vader is pursuing it, my lord. Surely. Lord Vader engaged the creature and was forced to retreat. The intruder is unusually resistant to force manipulation. I believe more drastic measures are warranted. What do you suggest, my lord? Fire the super laser, now, while you still can. Tarkin hesitated. My lord, we're not yet in optimal position over Alderaan. The demonstration will be meaningless if the creature destroys your station before you can fire. Better to fire imprecisely than not at all. Besides, Palpatine's voice carried dark amusement. You have another target readily available. Tarkin understood immediately. The intruder was inside the reactor level. If they fired the super laser now, the massive energy discharge through the station's systems might incinerate whatever was in that section. It would kill thousands of his own men, but it might save the station. Prepare to fire, Tarkin ordered. Target coordinates, internal, reactor level, Section 7 Beta. His weapons officer paled. Sir, we have troops in that area. I'm aware. Execute my orders. Yes, sir. The Death Star's super laser began its final charging sequence. The massive focusing array aligned, energy built to catastrophic levels, and in the reactor level below, Doomslayer detected the power spike. Vega? Slayer. The station's primary weapon is targeting this location. They're going to fire on their own station. Impact in 3 minutes. Time to reach reactor core? 5 minutes at current speed. The Slayer looked ahead at the corridor, at the final stretch between him and the reactor, at the army waiting in his path. Then faster, he started running. The main reactor level was a massive chamber hundreds of feet across, filled with conduits, control stations, and the reactor core itself suspended in the center like a mechanical sun. and filling every available space were stormtroopers, 5,000 of them. The Death Star's entire remaining garrison, deployed in a desperate last stand. The Slayer emerged from a corridor onto a catwalk overlooking the scene. Leia came up beside him and stopped, staring. That's impossible. There are too many. Vega. Ammunition status? Sufficient for sustained combat. However, Slayer, I must point out that the super laser will fire in 2 minutes. We need to exit this area. After the reactor is destroyed, Slayer, even you cannot fight through that many enemies in. The Slayer pulled out the BFG 9000. Warning, Vega said. BFG ammunition is limited. You have 1 shot. 1 shot is enough. Below, the garrison had spotted him. Thousands of weapons raised, commanders shouting orders, the entire army preparing to unleash everything they had. The Slayer aimed the BFG at the center of the formation. What is that weapon? Leia asked nervously. Big. Fucking gun, he fired. The green energy sphere that emerged from the BFG's barrel was the size of a small vehicle. It shot forward, accelerating, glowing brighter with each meter it traveled. Then it hit the center of the garrison and detonated. The explosion wasn't just physical, it was energetic on a level that defied conventional physics. The main blast vaporized everyone within 50 feet instantly. But the BFG's true power was the tendrils. Arcs of green energy erupted from the main blast, seeking out every living thing in range. The tendrils ignored armor, ignored cover, ignored everything except biological signatures. 5,000 stormtroopers, 5,000 human life signs. The BFG found them all. Leia watched in horror as soldiers across the entire chamber simply dissolved. The green energy touched them, and they ceased to exist. No screaming, no suffering. Just instant molecular disintegration. In 3 seconds, an entire army was reduced to ash and fading energy. When the light faded, the reactor chamber was empty. Silent. Not even bodies remained. Just scorch marks where men had been standing. What? Leia couldn't find words. What did you do? Effective, the Slayer said simply. Then alarms began shrieking. Super laser firing sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate reactor levels. Firing in 10 seconds. The super laser! Leia grabbed the Slayer's arm. It's going to fire on this level. We need to run. The Slayer looked at the reactor core. Then at the incoming energy readings his HUD was displaying. Then at Leia. Get behind me. What? We need to. Behind me. Now. Leia scrambled behind the Slayer as he braced himself on the catwalk, facing the reactor core. Above, in the Death Star's weapon array, the super laser fired. Not into space, into the station itself. The beam, powerful enough to destroy planets, lanced down through the Death Star's internal structure, burning through levels, vaporizing everything in its path. It hit the reactor level with the force of a small sun. The Slayer's Praetor suit activated every defensive system it had: energy shielding, armor hardening, emergency power protocols. The AI systems diverted all available power to keeping the user alive. The beam hit the Slayer directly. His shields dropped to 0 in milliseconds. Armor began to superheat. Warning alarms screamed in his helmet. But he held. The Praetor suit had been designed to withstand the weapons of hell itself. Demon fire, plasma hotter than stars, reality-warping energy attacks. The Death Star's super laser was powerful, but it was still just technology. The beam lasted 4 seconds. When it faded, the reactor level was devastated. The catwalk had melted, walls had vaporized, equipment was gone, but the Slayer stood, smoking, scarred, his armor showing damage that would take time to regenerate. But standing, behind him, Leia uncurled from where she'd been shielded by his body. How? How are you alive? Hard to kill. That's an understatement. The Slayer looked at the reactor. The super laser's internal firing had damaged it, safety systems failing, containment fields fluctuating. Perfect. He pulled out his rocket launcher and fired. 3 rockets. Direct hits to the reactor's stabilization systems. Explosions rippled through the core. Containment failed. Energy began to leak. Slayer, Vega said. That reactor is now unstable. Projected catastrophic failure in 9 minutes. The station will be destroyed. Good. Time to leave. He grabbed Leia's hand and started running. Behind them, the Death Star began to tear itself apart. Actually, there was no army anymore. The BFG had taken care of that. But Grand Moff Tarkin didn't know that yet. In the command center, he stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. Status of the reactor-level garrison? Silence. Status report, Tarkin demanded again. Sir, they're gone. All of them. 5,000 life signs just vanished. Impossible. The super laser hit that section directly. We should be reading. The intruder survived, sir. Sensors detect it, moving through the station. And the reactor is failing. Containment breach detected. Cascade failure imminent. Tarkin felt cold certainty settle over him. Time until total reactor failure? 8 minutes, sir. Can it be repaired? Not in 8 minutes. Sir, we need to evacuate. For the first time in his career, Grand Moff Wilhuff Tarkin faced defeat. His ultimate weapon, his triumph, his proof of Imperial superiority destroyed by a single intruder. Begin evacuation procedures. All personnel to escape pods and shuttle bays. Abandon station. What about the intruder, sir? Let it die with the station. There's nothing else we can do. Across the Death Star, personnel began fleeing for their lives. But one figure had no intention of fleeing. Darth Vader stood in a corridor between the Doomslayer and the escape route. He'd felt the reactor fail through the Force, felt the panic spreading through the station, felt his master's displeasure radiating from wherever Palpatine was observing, and he'd felt the intruder's presence still advancing, still unstoppable, still inexorable. Vader had been beaten once today, humiliated, forced to retreat. It would not happen again. He'd use the time to meditate, to draw deeply on the dark side, to accept that this enemy couldn't be beaten with conventional tactics or force powers. So he would beat it with rage, with hatred, with absolute commitment to victory regardless of cost. The Slayer rounded the corner and found Vader waiting. Lightsaber ignited. Stance perfect. Ready. You again, the Slayer's mechanical voice said. You have destroyed the Death Star, killed thousands, defied the Empire. Vader's voice was deadly calm. For this you will not escape alive. Not planning to escape, planning to kill the head demon. If you refer to the Emperor, you will not reach him. I stand in your way. Stood in my way before. Didn't stop me then. I was unprepared, testing your abilities, learning your weaknesses. Vader's grip tightened on his lightsaber. That was reconnaissance. This is war. The Slayer pulled out his crucible blade. The energy sword ignited, crimson meeting crimson. Then war it is. They clashed in the center of the corridor. This fight was different from their first encounter. Vader wasn't holding back anymore. He poured everything into his attacks, decades of training, all his rage at being beaten before, all his hatred channeled through the dark side. His lightsaber moved in patterns too fast for normal eyes to follow. He used the Force, constantly throwing debris, collapsing walls, creating barriers, every trick he'd learned in years of combat. The Slayer matched him, crucible blade against lightsaber, weapons fire when Vader dodged, equipment launcher when distance opened, chainsaw when they closed, pure hand-to-hand when weapons locked. They fought through 3 corridors, destroying everything around them. The Death Star was dying, groaning as systems failed, but neither combatant cared. Vader landed a solid strike lightsaber burning through the Slayer's shoulder pauldron, damaging the armor beneath. First real damage he'd managed to inflict. The Slayer responded by grabbing Vader's mechanical arm and ripping it off. Vader screamed, cybernetic pain sensors firing, and unleashed force lightning with his remaining hand. The Slayer walked through it, grabbed Vader by the throat, and lifted. Strong, the Slayer acknowledged. But not strong enough. He threw Vader through a wall. Followed. Found Vader struggling to stand. One arm gone. His armor damaged, breathing labored. The Slayer pulled out his chainsaw. Wait, Vader gasped. You can't, can, will. The chainsaw roared to life. Vader used the Force one last time not to attack but to speak. to send his thoughts directly into the Slayer's mind despite the resistance. I was like you once. A slave to my rage, killing because it was all I knew. The dark side consumed me. Don't let it consume you too. The Slayer paused, looked at Vader, really looked, saw not a demon but a man, broken, twisted, consumed by darkness, but still, somehow, human. I've done terrible things, killed innocents, served evil, I deserve death. But you can choose to be more than a weapon, more than just endless killing. The Slayer's grip on the chainsaw tightened, then loosened. Not a demon, he said finally, just broken. He raised his boot and kicked Vader toward the reactor core. Vader tumbled through the air, falling toward the massive energy sphere at the Death Star's heart. Vader twisted mid-fall, used his remaining arm and the Force to grab an access ladder, barely catching himself from falling into the reactor itself. He looked up, expecting the killing blow. The Slayer was already walking away. You're letting me live? Vader called after him. For now, not my mission to kill broken humans. My mission is the head demon. The Emperor is beyond you, beyond anyone. We'll see. The Slayer disappeared around a corner, leaving Vader hanging over the failing reactor, one-armed and defeated. Vader pulled himself up, collapsed on the access platform, and allowed himself a moment of genuine confusion. He'd faced the most dangerous enemy of his life, been beaten, been prepared to die, and been shown mercy by a creature that killed everything else in its path. What are you truly? Vader thought. Behind him, the reactor began to fail catastrophically. Vader forced himself to move, to escape, to survive, but he couldn't shake the question, or the uncomfortable realization that he'd just been judged and found, not quite guilty enough for execution. Meanwhile, the Doomslayer moved through the evacuating Death Star with Leia beside him. You let him live, she said. Why? Not the main target. And he's just a soldier following orders. Broken one, but still just a soldier. He's killed thousands, destroyed entire worlds. He's Darth Vader, and still less guilty than his master. The Emperor is the head demon. Cut off the head, body dies. Kill the soldier, another takes his place. Strategy. They reached a hangar bay. Leia spotted an Imperial shuttle. There, we can escape in that. The Slayer scanned the shuttle. It was functional, would survive the Death Star's destruction. Go, he said. Leave now. What about you? Unfinished business. The Emperor. Need to kill him. You'll die. The station is exploding. You have maybe 2 minutes before. Then, I have 2 minutes. Are you insane? You saved me, saved Alderaan. You stopped the Death Star. Isn't that enough? The Slayer looked at her. Head demon lives. Mission incomplete. Won't leave until mission is done. This is suicide. Maybe. Done it before. Usually works out. Leia stared at him, frustrated and awed in equal measure. You're not human. Not anymore. I don't know what you are. Told you, Doomslayer. I kill demons. That's what I do. He turned toward the corridor leading deeper into the station, toward where his sensors detected that massive dark side presence, Palpatine's signature. Wait, Leia called. If you survive, if you actually kill the Emperor and escape, find us. The rebellion. We could use someone like you. The Slayer paused, looked back. If demons return, I return. If not, he shrugged. Always more demons somewhere. He walked away, into the dying station, toward a confrontation with the most powerful Sith Lord in the galaxy. Leia watched him go, then boarded the shuttle. As she piloted it out of the hangar, she looked back at the Death Star. Explosions rippled across its surface. Sections were breaking apart. It had maybe a minute left. May the Force be with you, Doomslayer, she whispered. Then she jumped to light speed, carrying news of the Death Star's destruction and the mysterious warrior who had torn it apart from within. Behind her, the Death Star entered its death throes. And deep inside, the Doomslayer hunted his final target. The Death Star was dying. Klaxons blared through every corridor. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red. Automated systems screamed warnings that no one was left to hear. The evacuation was nearly complete, escape pods launching, shuttles fleeing, personnel abandoning the station in terror. But Doomslayer wasn't evacuating. He moved through the chaos with singular purpose, his sensors locked on the massive dark side signature deeper in the station. The reactor was failing behind him, containment fields collapsing, energy bleeding into surrounding systems. The chain reaction had begun. Slayer! Vega's voice crackled through his helmet, slightly distorted by the electromagnetic interference from the failing reactor. Station-wide catastrophic failure in 4 minutes. Structural integrity compromised. Multiple hull breaches detected. Recommend immediate evacuation. The Slayer kept walking. Additionally, the demonic signature you've been tracking has moved to the executive hangar bay. Analysis suggests this is where the Emperor's personal shuttle is docked. He's running, the Slayer said. Affirmative. The Emperor is attempting to evacuate before the station's destruction. If you intend to intercept, you have approximately 3 minutes before his shuttle launches. The Slayer broke into a run. He'd come too far to let the head demon escape. The Emperor Palpatine was the source. The one who'd corrupted Vader, created this weapon of mass destruction, spread darkness across this galaxy. Every instinct the Slayer had developed over eons of demon hunting screamed that this being needed to die, and Doomslayer always trusted his instincts. He crashed through a sealed blast door the hydraulics had failed, leaving it partially closed. His armored shoulder punched through the durasteel like it was cardboard. The corridor beyond was empty, evacuated, filled with smoke from electrical fires. Good, no distractions. The Slayer activated his equipment launcher and fired a grappling hook at a distant support beam. The hook caught, and he was yanked forward at high speed, covering hundreds of feet in seconds. He landed, sprinted, grappled again, moving through the dying station with practiced efficiency. Behind him, the reactor chamber exploded. The blast wave tore through multiple levels, vaporizing everything in its path. The Death Star shuddered, its massive frame unable to compensate for the catastrophic damage to its power core. The Slayer's HUD showed structural warnings. The station was coming apart. 2 minutes. The executive hangar bay was the most secure area of the Death Star, designed to house Palpatine's personal shuttle and various high-ranking Imperial vessels. Thick armor plating, redundant life support, independent power systems. None of it mattered now. Doomslayer burst through the hangar's entrance to find chaos. The bay was massive, easily a quarter-mile across and filled with expensive ships, maintenance equipment, and the bodies of hangar personnel who'd been trampled in the evacuation. At the far end, he saw it. The Emperor's shuttle. Lambda class, gleaming black. Its boarding ramp was still extended. And at the top stood Palpatine. The Emperor of the Galactic Empire stood at the shuttle's entrance, yellow eyes gleaming in the emergency lighting. He wore dark robes that seemed to drink in the light around him. His face was wrinkled, ancient, but his presence in the Force and to the Slayer's demonic senses was immense. "Ah," Palpatine said, his voice carrying across the hangar despite the distance and noise. "The intruder. I was wondering if you would reach me before the station's demise." The Slayer raised his super shotgun. Palpatine raised one hand, and Force lightning erupted a massive bolt of blue-white energy that crossed the hangar in an instant. The Slayer's shields absorbed most of it, but the sheer power still made him stagger. This wasn't like Vader's limited lightning. This was the refined product of decades, centuries of Sith mastery. "Impressive that you survived that," Palpatine observed. "But insufficient. You are powerful, creature, more powerful than any Jedi I've encountered. But I am the Dark Lord of the Sith. I am the culmination of 1,000 years of Sith knowledge. I am..." The Slayer shot him. The super shotgun blast crossed the hangar, but Palpatine's hand came up and the pellets stopped in midair, suspended by the Force, frozen inches from his face. "Rude," Palpatine finished, his amusement gone. "Very well. If you wish to die with this station, I shall accommodate you." He gestured, and the frozen pellets flew back at the Slayer at twice their original speed. The Slayer dodged, and the pellets punched through a parked TIE fighter, shredding its hull. Palpatine descended the ramp, his movements casual, almost leisurely. "You've caused me considerable inconvenience, creature. The Death Star was meant to be my grand demonstration, the culmination of years of planning, and you've destroyed it in less than 2 hours. The Slayer switched to his plasma rifle and opened fire, dozens of bolts streaking toward Palpatine. The Emperor deflected them with casual waves of his hands, the Force turning each bolt aside. Tell me, what are you? You're not of this galaxy. Not touched by the Force. Some kind of extra-dimensional warrior, a weapon from beyond known space? Doom Slayer. Ah, a name. How quaint. And what does the Doom Slayer want with me? You're a demon. I kill demons. Palpatine laughed a dry, ancient sound. A demon? Is that what I am to you? How? Reductive. I am so much more than that, creature. I am the culmination of Sith philosophy, the master of the dark side, the ruler of a galactic empire. To call me a mere demon is to... The Slayer pulled out his BFG. Palpatine's eyes widened. He'd seen that weapon's effects through the security feeds. Seen it vaporize 5,000 soldiers instantly. Wait, the Slayer fired. The green energy sphere screamed across the hangar. Palpatine threw up a force barrier, everything he had. All his power concentrated into a single defensive shield. The BFG blast hit the barrier and detonated. The explosion was apocalyptic. The hangar walls cracked. Ships were thrown like toys. The very air ignited. When the blast cleared, Palpatine still stood. His robes were smoking. His skin was burned. But he stood. That, Palpatine gasped. That was unpleasant. Then he unleashed his full power. Actually, Palpatine was already there. But now he stopped pretending to be a frail old man. The dark side erupted from him like a storm. Force lightning, not bolts, but streams. Continuous arcs of electricity that turned the hangar into a Tesla coil. The metal walls conducted the energy, making the entire space deadly. The Slayer's shields dropped to 0 instantly. His armor began to superheat. Warning alarms screamed, but he'd been burned before. In the literal fires of hell, he activated his flame belch and fired back. Hellfire met force lightning, two forms of unnatural energy clashing in the middle of the hangar. Palpatine actually looked surprised. That fire, it's not natural. Not of this dimension. Where did you get such power? The Slayer didn't answer. He charged through his own flames, through the lightning, directly at Palpatine. The Emperor snarled and switched tactics. Instead of lightning, he used pure telekinesis. He grabbed an entire TIE fighter with the Force and threw it. The Slayer jumped over it, using his grappling hook to swing around the flying ship, and came down on Palpatine from above. His fist, reinforced by Praetor suit servos, crashed into Palpatine's hasty force barrier. The barrier cracked but held. They were 20 feet apart now, close enough to see each other clearly. You're strong, Palpatine admitted, his yellow eyes gleaming. Stronger than I anticipated. But strength means nothing without understanding, without knowledge. I have studied the dark side for over a century. Every secret, every technique, every forbidden art. He gestured, and the Slayer felt something trying to invade his mind. A pressure. Palpatine trying to break into his thoughts, to dominate his will, to turn him into a puppet. It slid off like water off stone. Fascinating, Palpatine breathed. Your mind is impenetrable, not shielded, simply absent from the Force entirely. How is that possible? Don't know. Don't care. The Slayer pulled out his crucible blade and activated it. The red energy sword hummed to life. Palpatine reached into his sleeve and withdrew his own lightsaber. The blade ignited red, like Vader's, but somehow darker, hungrily dark. Very well, the Emperor said. If you wish to die by the blade, so be it. They clashed in the center of the dying hangar as the Death Star collapsed around them. Palpatine was old, ancient even. His body was frail, corrupted by decades of channeling dark side energy. But he'd been training in combat since before the Republic existed. His lightsaber moved in patterns that defied physics, augmented by precognition, by force-enhanced speed, by techniques refined over a century of practice. He flowed like water, struck like lightning, defended with absolute economy of motion. The Doom Slayer had been fighting since before human civilization existed. His crucible blade met Palpatine's lightsaber in a shower of sparks. The two energy weapons screamed against each other, neither able to overcome the other. Crimson against red. Ancient Sith technique against the weapon of Hell's greatest enemy. Palpatine spun, his blade seeking the Slayer's neck. The Slayer ducked, drove his shoulder into Palpatine's chest, sent him flying backward. The Emperor recovered in midair, using the Force to arrest his momentum and land gracefully. He immediately counterattacked with Force lightning from both hands. The Slayer activated his equipment launcher and fired a grenade directly into the lightning stream. The grenade detonated midway, the explosion disrupting the electricity and sending a shockwave through the hangar. Clever, Palpatine snarled. He used the Force to rip apart the walls themselves, sending tons of metal debris flying at the Slayer from all directions. The Slayer's chain gun spun up and fired, shredding the incoming debris. What got through bounced off his armor. He kept advancing, step by step, weapons blazing. Palpatine threw a Lambda-class shuttle at him. The entire ship, 200 tons of metal, flew through the air like a toy. The Slayer fired his rocket launcher. The rockets hit the shuttle's fuel tanks. The ship exploded mid-flight, raining burning debris across the hangar. Through the flames, the Slayer emerged. Still coming, still unstoppable. "What are you?" Palpatine screamed, his composure finally cracking. "Nothing survives this much punishment. Nothing. Told you." Doom Slayer. He was close now. 20 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet. Palpatine unleashed a Force scream, a wave of pure dark-side energy mixed with sonic force that had shattered reinforced blast doors. The Slayer walked through it. His armor cracked. His shields were gone. Blood ran from his helmet seals. But he walked through it. He grabbed Palpatine's face with one hand. The Emperor's eyes went wide with genuine terror. For the first time in decades, Sheev Palpatine felt mortal fear. "No," he whispered. "No, you can't. I am eternal. I am the dark side incarnate. I cannot be killed. Everyone can be killed." The Slayer's grip tightened. Hellfire began to burn from his gauntlets, green flames licking across Palpatine's face. The Emperor screamed. He poured everything into one final attack, all his power, all his rage, all his hatred channeled into a Force explosion that would have leveled a city block. The hangar walls blew out, equipment vaporized, the very air ignited. The Slayer was thrown backward, crashing through a wall, through another wall, embedding himself in the Death Star's superstructure. Palpatine collapsed, gasping, smoke rising from his body. That had been everything, his maximum output, enough power to destroy armies. And the creature had survived. He saw it then, the armored figure pulling itself from the rubble. Damaged, bleeding, but alive. "Impossible," Palpatine breathed. "You should be dead. You should be ash." The Slayer's helmet turned toward him. The visor was cracked, and through it, Palpatine could see glowing eyes. Not human eyes. Something else. Died before. Didn't take. Won't take now. He started walking toward Palpatine again. The Emperor tried to stand, tried to run, tried to mount one final defense. His body failed him. The dark side had sustained him for years beyond his natural lifespan, but it had limits, and he just exceeded them. The Slayer loomed over him. "Wait," Palpatine gasped. "Wait. I can offer you things. Power. Knowledge. I can teach you the secrets of the dark side. Show you how to transcend death itself. Together, we could..." No deals, no bargains, no second chances. The Slayer's hands ignited with hellfire. "I've heard every devil's pitch. They all promise the same things: power, knowledge, immortality, and they all lie." He grabbed Palpatine by the throat and lifted. "You manipulated a good man into evil, turned him into a weapon, used his love against him, built an empire on suffering, killed billions, and you'd do it all again if you survived." Palpatine tried to speak, tried to cast one final spell, tried anything. Nothing worked. His power was exhausted, his body was failing, and the creature holding him was beyond his ability to influence or harm. "Not a demon," the Slayer said quietly. "Just evil, but close enough." The hellfire intensified. Palpatine screamed as the hellfire consumed him. But this wasn't normal burning. The Slayer's flames didn't just destroy flesh, they destroyed essence. They burned through the dark side corruption that had sustained Palpatine for decades. Burned through the Sith techniques that would have let him cheat death. Burned through the very connection that linked his consciousness to the Force. No clones, no resurrection, no second chances. Emperor Sheev Palpatine, Dark Lord of the Sith, Master of the Galactic Empire, the culmination of 1,000 years of Sith planning burned completely. His body became ash, his power dispersed, his presence in the Force simply ended. Across the galaxy, Force sensitives felt it. A great darkness, suddenly extinguished, like a weight being lifted from the universe itself. The Doomslayer dropped the ashes and turned toward the hangar exit. Slayer. Vega's voice crackled, barely audible through the damaged systems. The station has 45 seconds until complete structural failure. The nearest escape route is Palpatine's shuttle. Still functional? Affirmative. The Emperor's shuttle has independent power and shielding. It can survive the Death Star's destruction if launched immediately. The Slayer ran toward the black Lambda-class shuttle. Its engines were already warming up. Palpatine had been preparing to flee before their battle. He jumped the boarding ramp just as the hangar's outer wall blew out. Atmosphere began venting. The Death Star was tearing itself apart. The Slayer reached the cockpit, pushed aside the pilot droid, and grabbed the controls. Vega, can you fly this? Patching into ship systems now. Navigation controls acquired. Engines at maximum. Launching in 3, 2, 1. The shuttle's engines roared to life. It shot forward, accelerating out of the hangar just as the entire section exploded. Behind them, the Death Star entered its final moments. The reactor core had achieved critical mass. The chain reaction was unstoppable. Every level, every corridor, every system was failing simultaneously. And at its heart, the massive superweapon that had been designed to destroy planets was turning its power inward. The Death Star exploded. Not a simple explosion, a catastrophic release of energy that briefly outshone the local sun. The station's massive frame was torn apart, vaporized, scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Every ship nearby was caught in the blast wave. TIE fighters attempting to flee were swatted from the sky. Even Star Destroyers at the edge of the system felt the impact. The Emperor's shuttle, protected by its superior shields and Vega's precise piloting, rode the edge of the explosion, using the blast wave to accelerate away from the destruction. Inside, the Doomslayer watched through the viewport as the Death Star became a new star briefly, before fading to scattered debris. "Target destroyed," he said simply. "Affirmative," Vega replied. "The Death Star has been completely destroyed. No survivors detected from the station. However, I am picking up multiple Imperial ships in the surrounding space. They will likely attempt to intercept us. Let them try." But the Imperial ships weren't pursuing. They were in disarray, their command structure broken, their ultimate weapon destroyed, their Emperor dead. Some were fleeing. Others were trying to rescue escape pods. None had the organization or will to chase a single shuttle. The Doomslayer had decapitated the Empire's leadership in a single mission. Vega, scan for the Princess. Leia, track her shuttle. Scanning. Detected. Princess Leia's shuttle jumped to hyperspace approximately 4 minutes ago. Tracking vector. She's heading toward the outer rim, likely to a rebel base. Good, she survived. Slayer, what are our mission parameters now? The demonic signature has been eliminated. Do we return to? No. The Emperor was just one demon. This galaxy has more. Could feel them. Where do we go? The Slayer thought for a moment. His sensors still detected darkness across this galaxy. Warlords, crime lords, slavers, Sith remnants, evil wearing 1,000 different faces, demons by another name. Wherever the demons are, he said, that's where we go. He set the shuttle on autopilot toward the outer rim and stood from the pilot's chair. His armor was damaged, scarred. Several systems were offline. He'd need time to repair, but he was alive. The mission was complete. And somewhere out there, More evil waited to be destroyed. Just another day for the Doomslayer. 3 days later, the rebel base on Yavin 4 was in chaos, but good chaos, celebratory chaos. News had spread through the rebellion like wildfire. The Death Star destroyed, the Emperor dead. Darth Vader missing, presumed dead. Grand Moff Tarkin confirmed dead. The Empire's leadership was in ruins. Their ultimate weapon was gone. And suddenly, impossibly, the rebellion had a chance. Princess Leia stood in the command center, surrounded by cheering rebels, accepting congratulations and answering a million questions. But her mind was elsewhere. She kept thinking about the armored warrior, the Doomslayer, the creature that had single-handedly torn apart the Death Star from within and killed the Emperor himself. Your Highness. Mon Mothma approached, the rebellion's civilian leader looking both elated and overwhelmed. We've been analyzing your report. This, Doomslayer, you're certain of what you saw? Certain. He killed thousands, fought Vader twice and won, survived the Death Star's super laser, and killed the Emperor in single combat. Leia shook her head. I know it sounds impossible, but I was there. I saw it. And he just left? Didn't ask for anything? Didn't demand payment or position? He said if demons returned, he'd return. Otherwise, he was going to find more demons to kill. Demons. Mon Mothma looked troubled. What did he mean? I think he sees evil as a kind of demon. The Emperor was a demon to him. Vader was a demon. The Empire itself was demonic. And he hunts demons. That's what he is. What he does. A warrior who hunts evil for its own sake. Mon Mothma considered this. Such beings are either the greatest heroes or the most dangerous zealots, sometimes both. He saved my life. Saved Alderaan. Destroyed the Death Star. Whatever he is, he's on the side of the innocent. For now. But what happens when he decides the rebellion has become evil? When he decides we're the demons? Leia had no answer. Across the base, a junior technician monitoring long-range sensors frowned at his display. Sir, I'm picking up something odd. A ship just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Identify it. It's a Lambda-class shuttle, Imperial design. But it's not broadcasting any transponder codes. And it's just sitting there, not approaching, not fleeing, just waiting. The sensor officer considered reporting this to command. But they were in the middle of a celebration. One unidentified shuttle at the edge of the system wasn't worth interrupting. He made a note in the log and returned to his other duties. If he'd looked closer at the sensor readings, he might have noticed something unusual about that shuttle. Might have seen the battle damage on its hull. Might have detected the unusual energy signatures from its interior. Might have realized it was the Emperor's personal shuttle. But he didn't look that closely. And at the edge of the Yavin system, Doomslayer stood in the shuttle's cockpit, looking at the distant rebel base through the viewport. Vega. Analysis of the Rebel Alliance. Threat assessment. Scanning available data. The Rebel Alliance appears to be a coalition of systems and individuals opposed to the Galactic Empire. Their stated goals include restoring democracy and ending tyranny. No evidence of demonic activity or corruption. Assessment. Not a threat. Potentially allies against remaining Imperial forces. Good. They're safe then. Slayer. I'm detecting multiple Imperial remnant groups across the galaxy. Warlords, crime syndicates with Imperial connections, Sith cultists. Additionally, there are other sources of darkness, ancient temples, forbidden artifacts, creatures that may qualify as demonic by your standards. How many targets? Hundreds, potentially thousands if we expand search parameters to include all evil entities in this galaxy. The Slayer was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up a holographic star map of the galaxy. So many stars, so many worlds, so much space, and scattered across it, thousands of points of evil. Slavers, warlords, dark force users, creatures that fed on suffering, demons by any other name. Mark them all. Slayer. That would take years, decades, possibly centuries to hunt them all. Don't have anywhere else to be. He selected the nearest target, a crime lord in the Outer Rim who trafficked in slaves and controlled multiple systems through terror and violence. Set course. Maximum speed. Slayer, I should mention this individual has an army. Thousands of soldiers, warships, planetary defenses. It would take the entire rebel fleet to— Don't need a fleet. Just need weapons and time. The shuttle's engines powered up. It turned away from Yavin, away from the celebrating rebels, and jumped to hyperspace. Weeks later, the crime lord Nock the Hutt sat on his throne on Nal Hutta, surrounded by guards, protected by armies, confident in his power. He'd heard about the Death Star's destruction, about the Empire's collapse, and he'd celebrated. With the Empire weakened, crime lords like him could expand their operations without interference. His empire of suffering would grow. Then the alarm started. Boss, we've got an intruder in the compound. One intruder? Send a squad. We did. They're dead. All of them. Then send an army. We're trying. He's killing everyone. He won't stop. He just keeps. The transmission cut off to the sound of gunfire and screaming. Nock looked at his remaining guards nervously. Seal the throne room. All forces to my position. Now. The doors sealed. Dozens of guards took position. Heavy weapons activated. Every defense Nock had available was deployed to protect him. They heard something outside. Weapons fire. Explosions. Screaming that cut off suddenly and repeatedly. Then silence. Is it over? The throne room doors exploded inward. Through the smoke, an armored figure walked in. Green armor covered in blood. Weapons smoking. Glowing eyes fixed on Nock. What are you? Nock demanded. Doomslayer. The mechanical voice was emotionless. You trade in slaves, profit from suffering, spread misery across multiple systems. I'm a businessman. I operate within. You're a demon, and I kill demons. The guards opened fire. The Slayer walked through the blaster bolts, his super shotgun rising. What followed was a massacre. When it was over, Nock the Hutt's criminal empire was destroyed. His guards were dead. His facilities were burning, and his slaves, hundreds of beings he'd held in bondage, were free. The Slayer stood in the ruins, reloading his weapons, preparing to move to the next target. Vega, status on remaining demon targets. Multiple confirmed locations identified. Additionally, I've detected rumors of a Sith Lord in the unknown regions. Possible high-value target. Mark it. We'll get to it. The Slayer looked up at the night sky of Nal Hutta. So many stars, so many worlds, so much evil. And he had eternity to hunt it all. He'd been fighting for eons, had killed demons beyond counting, had destroyed Hell's greatest champions. This galaxy's evils were powerful, dangerous, numerous, but they were just more demons. And the Doomslayer did what he always did. He loaded his weapons. He checked his armor. He marked his next target. And he went hunting. Somewhere in the rebellion, Leia looked up at the stars and wondered if the mysterious warrior was still out there, still fighting, still hunting evil. Somewhere in the Imperial remnant, Vader recovered from his wounds and felt a strange emptiness where the Emperor's presence had been, and wondered about the creature that had shown him mercy. Somewhere in the criminal underworld, slaves were freed by a mysterious armored figure that appeared without warning, killed their masters, and disappeared into the night. The galaxy was changing. The Empire was falling. The rebellion was rising. And in the shadows, the Doomslayer hunted. Not for glory, not for reward, not even for gratitude. Just because demons existed. And while demons existed, the Doomslayer would kill them. Until every last one was dead. Or until he was. Rip and tear. Until it is done. The hologram flickered to life in what remained of the Imperial command structure. A dozen Imperial officers and Moffs looked at each other nervously. With the Emperor dead, Vader missing, and Tarkin gone, they were the acting leadership, and they were terrified. We need to discuss the situation, one officer said carefully. The creature, another clarified. The one that destroyed the Death Star. Multiple reports confirm it's still active. 3 crime lord operations destroyed in the past month. A slaver ring eliminated. An Imperial warlord killed along with his entire command staff. Is it targeting the Empire specifically? No, it seems to target evil, broadly defined. It killed the Emperor. But it also killed crime lords, slavers, and pirates. It's not political. It's cleansing, one officer finished quietly. It's cleansing the galaxy of evil. By its definition, the question hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. Would the Empire, or what remained of it, be next? Perhaps, one Moff suggested carefully, we should reconsider some of our policies, the more brutal directives, the mass executions, the terror tactics. Are you suggesting we change our methods because we're afraid of one warrior? I'm suggesting we consider whether those methods make us targets. The creature killed the Emperor, killed the most powerful man in the galaxy. What could it do to us? The hologram conference fell silent. Finally, one officer spoke. Motion to reform imperial policy toward civilian populations. Reduce extreme punitive measures. Eliminate slavery operations. Improve humanitarian conditions. Seconded. Another said quickly. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. The Empire didn't become good, but it became less evil, not out of morality, out of fear. Fear of the armored warrior who hunted evil for eternity. Fear of the Doom Slayer. And somewhere in the outer rim, loading shells into his shotgun, the Slayer felt the darkness in the galaxy diminish, just slightly. Good. Less demons to kill, but still plenty to go around. He set course for the next target and prepared to do what he always did. Rip and tear. Until it is done.